Christians
Now
are
it
less
dep
anti-Semitic at this moment in history, but throughout the general long run history, Christianity was worse.
I'm an ex-Christian. I would say that it's not more anti-Semitic than Islam. There's a myth that Islam is was tolerant of Jews in Islamic countries. It's not true. They were just as persecuted there as they were in Christian countries. There's no real difference. I think you would agree with that, Armin, right?
it depends when and where, Dajjal.
It depends when and where.
Hmm.
Sure. Some places were worse than others. Some leaders may have been more or less devout.
But
But yeah.
but
Also,
if we're
yeah,
talking about when and where, then we're talking about Christians and Muslims, not Christianity and Islam, because Christianity and Islam hasn't changed. Christians and Muslims have changed.
yeah, of course. I'm just saying that it's a myth that Jews have never been persecuted in Islamic countries. That Islam
Yeah,
was more tolerant of Jews than Christianity, and Muslims were better to Jews than Christians, and it's just not true.
there was a time that Muslims were better to Jews than Christians. There was a time,
The
Iraq,
Ottomans
but
were much
again,
Iraq,
better than the
Iraq,
Spanish.
Iraq in the 12 and 1300s was
yeah, under
very
the
good.
Abbasid dynasty, Jews were the under the Abbasid dynasty, the best place for Jews to be was under the Islamic Caliphate. But again, that's not because Islam. That's
Yeah,
because those Muslims were not taking Islam very seriously. That's the
right, of
reason
course.
that happened. Yeah.
That's a good point. But yeah, Islam itself isn't more tolerant, but also it's true that that Jews were persecuted by Muslims at various points. So, and sometimes they weren't in certain specific cases, but they were in other places. Like it's a myth that Muslims never persecuted Jews. That's what I'm saying. Because a lot of people believe that Muslims were always tolerant of Jews, and that's just not true.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's move
Right?
on.
That's all. That's
there's
all.
there are much more examples of what you say that places
Yeah,
Islamic
but
places
also,
were well for Jews. You're right, but it was a thing.
yeah, of
It's
course,
not
of course. But
disconnected from reality.
in the Quran, the Quran literally says that the Armageddon cannot commence until every Jew is dead.
Okay, and who was just now? It was Samantha and then Dajjal.
Yep.
Okay, so Oscar.
Oh man, I forget the point that I was gonna make, but yeah, I would say that Christianity overall throughout history, yeah, there's been periods where the Ottomans were actually more tolerant to the Jews and were the Spanish. Oh yeah, I remember the example. So I don't know if you guys ever heard of the Merchant of Venice by Shakespeare. Have you guys ever read it? Yeah. So in the Merchant of Venice, there's this character. His name is Shylock. And the interesting thing about that, that novel or that play is that Jews had been expelled from England centuries before. So Shakespeare writes not even interacting with Jews at all. So what he comes up with in that character is basically the stereotypes of Jews that he hears from, the culture and the society that he's submerged in. Because many people that hate Jews have never seen one, right? Like Shakespeare had not seen one. So what is this, character that they make, or how can they make a character like that? And the reason they can make a character like that is because Christianity offers sufficient material for you to craft a stereotype of a money loving, Jew that, even Shakespeare used to make the bad guy of his plays. And he didn't even have to see a Jew at all. This kind of reminds me of when I was hearing John Hersey Lee's audiobook that she talked to people in Somalia that despised the Jews. And they're like, but you've never seen one. You never talked to one. So what drives you so crazy about this, right? And I think that what drives people so crazy about is that they are an archetype of, conspiracy and control and money. That's why sometimes here, when Marxists talk about the capitalists, it awfully sounds a lot like the Jews, right? Or the Zionists. The Zionists are now, they are this character, kind of like Shylock a little bit, where people don't even have to interact with real Jews. Christianity made it possible so that people can create this character. Actually, I would even go as far as saying that to be a true Christian, you have to transcend the Judaic part of your soul. Like Christianity moves forward by leaving everything that was Jewish behind. So, in order to become a better Christian, you gotta de-Judaize yourself, right? That's why the Spanish, when they were, when they kicked the Jews out, what they were worried was about the Judaizers, right? Because you are Judaizing us. So therefore, like, we gotta push you out
30
of here.
seconds.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that Christianity offers ample material for stereotyping, for conspiracy, and evidence that you see is in Shakespeare's play. He never met any Jews, but he is able to craft a well-developed character based on Christian and local and stereotypes. That's it.
Oh, okay. So I just wanted to. This is fascinating to me because as an ex-Muslim, I'm used to people when it comes to especially the subject of Jews. I'm discovering this, anti-Christian angle because I'm usually think like everywhere we talk about anti-Jewish hatred, Islam is always front and center, and as the main villain. And now that we have Christianity as a competitor is actually something that I'm not used to. So I just want to ask questions, from uh, everyone here, like, so what your views on Jesus is as a character, and also would you consider yourself to be like as anti-Christianity and as anti-Islam based on everything that you guys are saying, or no, like, or is it still more anti-Islam? So yeah, I just wanted to know what you guys think.
Okay. So should I just go on with the list then?
Yeah, maybe like you just raise your hand so when it's your turn, you could answer me. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So it's my turn. I will go over some points and I will try to answer you my best. So, couple of things. We went over lots of things. For example, we talked about how Christianity rolled and came to be, and there is some stuff that I think that they did in order to get themselves further from the Jews, and they canceled Jewish things for sure because it specifically said that Jesus celebrated Passover. Jesus did it. Your God celebrated Pesach. Till today, Christians worldwide do not celebrate Pesach. Why? Because it's too much like the Jews, and if they will do it, there's not no, you can't really hate on the Jews because you're too much like them. You even have the same holidays. So I do think that there is something there, and they should celebrate Passover. They should celebrate Pesach. It doesn't make sense why they're not. That's one. The second thing is they were pretty brutal to us. I don't like. It depends where you look, but around Spain and places like this, they used to burn Jews by the hundreds in big fires, for example. It has the same effect at the end of the day. It was so bad, actually, that our rabbis of the time decided to tell the Jews that it's okay to disguise yourself as a Christian and stay alive. Because actually, what our religion says is that if somebody says to you that you need to quit your Judaism, you choose death. That is the only scenario in Judaism where you choose death over life when they tell you to convert. And our rabbis went against it and said that you can become a Christian toward the outside because they would kill us all. So it was pretty bad. And so Jesus was very Jewish. We went over this. And now the Christians are obviously not a threat to Israel, but we need to do a little distinguishing. The Christians that historically and today don't like the Jews are mostly Catholic, and the Protestants who are not like the Jews, they come from very specific places in Christianity, and it's worth mentioning also. For your question, Armen, can you repeat it real quick because I don't remember?
Also, the Eastern
And are you more, less, or the same when it comes to being anti-Christianity compared to anti-Islam? Is it similar, less, more?
Obviously, Christianity has reformed and transformed over the years, and it makes itself relevant, something that Islam should learn how to do. Today, I do not fear Christians. I don't think that Christians are inherently bad for Jews or anything. They're just Christians. Some of them are my friends. I don't have any problem with them. If we talked 400 years before, probably I would run for my life from a Christian. That is correct.
Muslims could say, like, okay, so given that Christians were at some point worse to Jews than Muslims, this shows that this is not an Islam problem. This is a Muslim problem. That's what they would say. This is not it's not inherent within the religion. It's just changes from time to time, from people to people. So you're just dealing with bad people, not with a bad religion, if that's what they would say.
But some religions have the capacity to reform and change and adapt, and others don't. That's what I would answer. And Islam
Okay.
don't.
Okay, so I want to. Okay, that's it. And your opinions on Jesus before we go to other people?
I think he was a great guy. I think he existed. I think he was a great guy. Probably was a hell of a rabbi. I don't know if he was the Messiah or not. I was not there to check. And but I think he was a great guy at the end of the day. I don't like some of the apostles and what they wrote and how they depicted things. But Jesus, I think that he was a hell of a guy.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
And
I think
after me, uh,
Let's go through the list.
yeah,
okay.
Armin. Why do I have you, Armin?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Oscar, and then Mossad.
Yeah, I kind of want to push back on the Jesus was a great guy thing because, Jesus, people like to cherry pick Jesus, right? Definitely Jesus was wise in some things and did promote like more peaceful approaches to things, but people forget the judgment part of Jesus and the part where he's going to come back to revive the dead and then govern over the world and have a kingdom of peace for 1,000 years or something like that. Right? Like people love to quote like the Sermon on the Mount, they love to quote that, but when Jesus talks about, oh, we're going to throw the useless, wheat or the useless twigs into the fire, people don't like to read that part of Jesus. No, he has like he's gonna come and he's gonna judge everyone, and there's gonna be an apocalypse, and his army of angels is gonna come down and is gonna beat the forces of evil. I don't know if you guys ever been to like a Catholic church, but you guys seen never the image of Archangel Michael putting his foot on Satan's head and about
Yep,
to
yep.
Christians don't get that out of nowhere, right? There's a war element to Christianity as well. And Christians love to argue saying, oh, no, no, that's just symbolic. Like when Jesus talks about the sword and the shield and the helmet, he's not talking about actually warrior clothes. He's just saying to put the spiritual sword on and to put the spiritual breastplate on. He's not actually talking about war stuff. No, he is. Come on. Like he's not saying take flowers. He's not saying he's saying sword and shield and these things, right? That's how metaphors work. Number 2
Wait,
on Jesus.
didn't he say whoever lives by the sword dies by the sword?
Yeah. Or leave all your children, leave all your family. I don't come to make peace. I kind of put brother against mother, all these things, right?
Right.
He also says, and to go back to this kind of like blood and meat thing, he says that your real family, not your blood family, your real family is the one with the one you align spiritually with, right? So he's kind of removing himself. He's telling people, you may have your brother that you were born from the same mother, but he's not really your brother, right? Because you guys are not spiritual aligned because maybe he's an atheist and maybe you're Christian, right? So your real brother
I,
is
yeah.
right. And then also another thing about Jesus' morals. Let's say I steal from Armin. I steal $5 from Armin, right? But then I feel kind of guilty, and then I go and I ask Asi, "Hey, dude, I did some horrible thing to Armin. I stole $5 from him. Could you forgive me for what I did to Armin?" Sure, I forgive you. And then I never go to Armin to be responsible And maybe I did something so horrible to Armin that he says, you know what, Oscar, I can't forgive you because you did something so horrible that I'm never gonna forgive you. But then I can go to Asti again and I can say, hey, you know what, Armin, he's a bad guy because he's not willing to forgive me. So Asti,
Yeah.
you're the best guy ever and you're God, so you can forgive anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Oscar, are you
now,
an atheist?
yes, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, and all religions are problematic. I have like friends from India that they talk about, for example, the caste system. Same horrible shit, right? Islam, same horrible shit. Christianity, all of them.